So at a time when the global order is undergoing its biggest realignment in decades, when supply chains are being redrawn, when the race for semiconductors, critical minerals and advanced technologies has become a huge issue, Japan has brought a clear strategic signal to India. Japanese Prime Minister has landed in New Delhi for a 3-day official visit. This is the first visit to India since taking office and the first by a Japanese Prime Minister in nearly 3 years. She was received at the Palam Airport by Union Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh. She will also receive a ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan before holding bilateral talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi at Hyderabad House as a part of the 16th India-Japan Annual Summit. And to get us the latest, my colleague Akansha is with us. Also joining us on this broadcast are our guests. Akansha, what is going to be the big takeaway from this visit? It's over to you.
Thank you, Sagarika. As you rightly mentioned, this is a very crucial visit given the timing of it at a time when the globe is staring at a disruption in supply chain. It becomes even more important for two Asian superpowers like India and Japan to come up with a multipolar Asia. If there's something that the war in Iran has taught the globe, it is to become more economically resilient, to become more Atmanirbhar, something that even Prime Minister Takaichi is looking towards bringing back into focus is the security of a free and open Indo-Pacific. In an op-ed, in fact, that was penned by Prime Minister Takaichi, she's already said that she'll be looking towards bringing that focus back on a free and open Indo-Pacific with Prime Minister Modi. More importantly, this visit will also be building on Prime Minister Modi's visit of August 2025 to Japan, when Japan had in fact extended an investment of 10 trillion yen to India. And at the same time, we are looking at a Japan which is a very new Japan, not as pacifist as it was back in the 1960s and 70s. They are ready for arm transfer technology, so India could look towards building on that defense development with the help of Japan. Skilled labor, another interesting aspect. We are looking towards sending 50,000 skilled personnel to Japan. And even more importantly is critical minerals, because China has been using that as a leverage across the world. Nikkei Asia has also reported that India and Japan will be looking towards trade settlements in yen and rupee. That also at a time when, remember, both these countries have borne the brunt of the Trumpian tariffs. Host of MOUs all set to be signed in a couple of hours. A very warm welcome to all our viewers and to this live and rolling coverage from outside Hyderabad House. This is where Prime Minister Modi will be hosting the Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi to the 16th India-Japan Annual Summit. On that note, let's quickly go back to Sagarika, who will take us through some data crunching when it comes to the bilateral trade figures and what to expect.
Before that, Akansha, let's also welcome our guests who are joining us on this broadcast. Jagannath Panda, geopolitical expert, and also Dr. Satoru Nagao, senior fellow. Ashok Sajjanar, former diplomat, is also with us. But like you mentioned, India and Japan have actually identified a new set of sectors that will shape the next phase of this partnership. The focus is firmly, like we've been telling our viewers, on semiconductors, on critical minerals, on pharmaceuticals, on clean energy, on information and also on communication technology. But Akansha, do tell our viewers about, that big business meeting that we're looking at. The focus is going to be on investments. What are your sources telling you? What is going to be the biggest headline when it comes to takeaways for both India and also for Japan?
Thank you, Sagarika. That's also a point we'll be taking forward with our guests in just a bit. Of course, we've already spoken about the top key areas of focus is going to be defense technology. You're also looking towards critical minerals. And, of course, there's going to be a lot of exchange when it comes to skilled labor. India is looking towards reducing its regulatory complications when it comes to attracting greater Japanese investment, and that is exactly what this business forum that is taking place today at 3 p.m. at Taj Palace, it's been organized by Japan's External Trade Organization, will be looking forward to achieve. Stay with me, Sagarika. Let me quickly introduce our esteemed guests today. I'm joined in by Mr. Jagannath Panda, who's in fact the head at Stockholm Center for South Asian and Indo-Pacific Affairs. I'm also joined in by Dr. Saturo Naga, who's a senior fellow at Hudson Institute. And as always, Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar, senior diplomat, joining us on the broadcast as well. We'll quickly, in fact, be going over to our guests in just a bit, but let's quickly first go across to the Rashtrapati Bhavan right now. I'm being told by my team that visuals are coming in from the Rashtrapati Bhavan, where Prime Minister Modi, in fact, is also hosting. In fact, President Draupadi Murmu is hosting the Japanese Prime Minister. She's being accorded the ceremonial guard of honor at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. This is what's going to mark the beginning of all of those meetings, and that's starting from the Rashtrapati Bhavan. After this, the Japanese Prime Minister will be hosted by the Indian Prime Minister, and post that bilateral meet, we can expect a host of MOUs being signed and announced for press statements. But for now, let me quickly bring in our guests right now. If I could quickly go across to my first guest, Mr. Jagannath Panda as well. Mr. Panda, if you can share your thoughts as this momentous occasion takes place. You know, it's the first official trip of Sanae Takaichi to India, but she's certainly no stranger to Prime Minister Modi. This meeting will be building on the previous meetings that we've seen, most recently being the one at G7 in France.
Absolutely. I think, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's visit marks a good momentum that has already been built on India-Japan relations over the last 10 to 15 years. And I think this suggests that there is a lot to explore, a lot to capitalize on. And I think as far as Prime Minister Takaichi's visit is concerned, it will be a follow-up visit to Prime Minister Modi's visit to Japan earlier. But I think for me, there are 3 or 4 significant areas where this summit will matter. One, when it comes to innovation, Japan is a country which is really focusing a lot on innovation and skill development, and India is there to partner with, when it comes to skill management, skill development, and innovation. When it comes to today's, artificial intelligence age. So innovation is going to be one of the focal point of collaborations. Second, I think what we are seeing that both countries are talking about energy cooperation and renewable energy cooperation. As you rightly mentioned, clean energy is going to be, green technology is going to be the hub of the discussion. Third is that the momentum is built at a time when, US is really retreating from Indo-Pacific and dropping the from the Indo-Pac. And that actually encouraged Japan and India, and particularly Prime Minister Takaichi and Prime Minister Modi, to sit down to talk about the Indo-Pacific narrative that they have been building successfully over the last 10 years or so. Prime Minister Abe delivered that historic speech in 2007 in Indian Parliament, and that legacy needs to be preserved and moved forward. And my last point would be, I think this is a critical moment for Japan and India, as you rightly mentioned, where defense collaborations can be advanced. And I think Japan is looking for good clients, and India can emerge as a, bigger clients for Japan. And there, I think, defense technology, shipyards, ship cooperation, maritime cooperations could be the hub of discussion. And therefore, this visit marks a good momentum that has been built over the last 1.5 decades.
Mr. Panda, some very critical points, in fact, you have just now shared. Let's quickly take this forward with our other guests as well. So that ceremonial guard of honor being accorded to the Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi is only bearing testimony to the time-tested historical ties that New Delhi and Tokyo share. Let me quickly bring in my guests. Ambassador Sajanha will be the best person to weigh in on how historical ties between the two countries are. And today what we are witnessing is just an embodiment, even more so, as both the countries mark 75 years of our diplomatic ties next year.
Yeah, thank you very much, Akansha, for having me, and warmest felicitations to you on your new assignment with this channel. Such a pleasure to be with you. You're very right. I think the relations between India and Japan are truly historic. You know, whether it is Rabindranath Tagore, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, or any of the other multitude of luminaries who go to strengthen this ties. Of course, the legacy of Buddhism that binds the two countries together from millennia, not only centuries, but from millennia. So the relations have truly been very, very historic, Akansha, but I think they have really got a boost over the last decade and a half. And I think we can give credit to that for the very special bonds and relationship that existed between Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Prime Minister Modi. Both the leaders were said to enjoy what was known as a bromance between the two leaders. Wherever they were, whichever capitals they met, they would always make time for each other. And the worldview of both these leaders coincided. So I think that was something that was very significant in terms of bringing the two leaders together. But I think the moment today has a special salience, has a special significance, Akansha, because the whole world is changing so very rapidly. And we are seeing those changes taking place in our region particularly, but all over the world. And so when we speak about, as you mentioned, Atmanirbharta and the free and open and rule-based Indo-Pacific, which Japan is promoting and taking forward, advancing, that I think there is a very integral synergy between these two elements. So defense and security is a very important part, and what Madam Sanae Takaichi also mentioned in one of her ex-posts at her engagement in G7, she said she had raised the issue of challenges in the Indo-Pacific, particularly in terms of China, and spoken that all the countries need to work together. So I think as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned, India and China are, of course, very strong. India and Japan are very strong partners. So this is something that we taken forward. We know that, the confluence of the two seas speech was given by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2007 to the Indian Parliament. But after that, we have seen the whole issue of after 2017, particularly when the Quad was revived and Asia-Pacific was given a new nomenclature of the Indo-Pacific, that this whole relationship and this whole geographical region has attained a very special salience. And we have seen, starting with Shinzo Abe, and then Fumio Kishida, he had his own advanced version of the free and open Indo-Pacific. And Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, after she has come, she has divested herself of the pacifist policies that were being pursued by Japan earlier, which you mentioned just now. Right. And they are following a much more aggressive policy as far as getting ready for defense is concerned. And that gels in very neatly.
That's a very interesting point that you're talking about when you speak about defense technology. And let me quickly bring in Dr. Nagao on that point. And while I go to Dr. Nagao, just to quickly bring our viewers up to speed with what's happening happening at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Of course, Prime Minister Modi hosting Prime Minister Takaichi over there. There's a meeting between the delegations that is also taking place. This is shortly before they all arrive right here at the Hyderabad House, where the bilateral meeting will be taking place. So let me quickly bring in Dr. Nagao on that note, since Ambassador Sajan Har so beautifully spoke about defense. So Dr. Nagao, let's build on that point or aspect of defense. What we are looking at right now is a very new Japan, which has moved away from that pacifist World War II stance that it had adopted back in the 60s and 70s for several decades. Thanks to Shinzo Abe, there was, of course, a lot of that was undone, especially in 2013, when he came up with the National Security Council, not to forget when he also established the 3 principles or revised the 3 principles of arms transfer technology. So when we talk about this new Japan, now under Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, how can India stand to gain when it comes to defense cooperation?
In this case, we should remember one important word Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said in the Indian Parliament in 2007. He clearly said, a strong India is the best interest of Japan, and a strong Japan is in the best interest of India. So such kind of the relation Japan want to create. And in this case, rise of India is there is no one in the world can deny this. So India is rising to be the superpower in the future. And so that's why India is becoming to be such kind of status to lead the world. Under such kind of situation, what is the role of the India-Japan relation is the matter. And in case of the defense, indeed we should focusing on. Japan is not the rising power. But for a long time, Japan restrict their potential. So that's why even if the natural resources itself is not rising in case of Japan, but Japan will show more stronger performance in the world because of they release the restriction in case of the defense area. So that's why this is a very important part. Currently, the rise of Indo-Pacific is led by China. But this age of Indo-Pacific, age of the Asia, should not be China-dominated Asia. India should lead it, and Japan should support this. So India-Japan relation is the new power in Asia to rise. In this case, defense is very important. Japan has the technology which hasn't gave to other country. But India has a huge potential to be the very big armed forces, which could be very sophisticated by equipment. In this case, Japan-India cooperation could support this plan. This time, there is a high possibility that 2 countries will agree to develop the drone jointly. Indeed, unmanned ground vehicle has already finished, or the naval antenna for the naval ship is already concluded, already started. So now is the time to develop the drone, because this is age of drone. And AI enhance the capability of drone drastically. So in the near future, this is the most important weapon. Indeed, already most important weapon in the battlefield. In this case, India and Japan collaborate to develop. This will be the game-changing weapon. So that is one of the very important feature in the defense cooperation India and Japan. And other will follow, for example, Mogami class, frigate, or etc., will follow. Thank you.
I want to quickly bring in Mr. Panda on that note. Mr. Panda, just to take that point forward as far as security is concerned, because in that op-ed that was penned by Sanae Takaichi for the Times of India, the Japanese Prime Minister made it amply clear that she will be looking towards bringing the focus back on an open and free Indo-Pacific with Prime Minister Modi. Given that the US President's interest in the Quad has been waning, how do you think, not just India and Japan, but even Australia, given that the Australian Defence Minister was in the country just a few days ago, Prime Minister will be headed to Australia next, how can these 3 partners ensure that the focus remains on the Quad, at least for their own security? even more so after the abrupt rolling back of Indo from the nomenclature of Indo-Pacific by the United States.
Of course, if you see that the way the Indo-Pacific narrative is being challenged, particularly at a time when Trump administration is not really serious, there is a rethinking needs to be done, particularly among these three other Quad members, Australia, Japan, and India. And the Japanese narrative, the Japanese, partaking, the Japanese interest on the free and open Indo-Pacific is critical to that effect. If we recall, even though it was the American backing, but it was actually late Prime Minister Abe Shinzo who talked about Quad, who actually promoted the concept of free and open Indo-Pacific. And that free and open Indo-Pacific is critical today because each of these countries, be it Japan and India, they are emerging as maritime trading economy. Japan is a trading economy, we know, but India is also extremely reliant on maritime trade. We saw it during the Strait of Hormuz crisis. So therefore, the time has arrived, probably where we need to really talk about maritime security, maritime governance, ocean governance, and how to really talk and collaborate with a country like Australia.
So I'm so sorry to interrupt you there. I want to quickly give closing thoughts to Ambassador Sajanhar on that note. So Ambassador Sajanhar, there are learnings from the current geopolitical situation, especially in West Asia. How do you see that translate onto paper between India and Japan? We are being told that they will be looking towards, forging better energy ties, especially when it comes to LNG. Not to forget a direct trade settlement in yen and rupee.
No, absolutely. I think resilience is the name of the word, and diversification. That is, what all countries have to pursue. We have seen that after the energy security shocks that the whole world received, particularly India and Japan, because both of us are so heavily dependent upon imported energy sources. So I think resilience in that field, and we have also spoken about supply chain resilience. You were talking just now about collaboration between India, Japan, and Australia, Akansha. And these three countries have signed an agreement on supply chain resilience. So whether it is energy security, whether it is in terms of renewable energy, whether it is solar energy, green hydrogen, I think these are definitely going to be areas where both the countries are going to be working. And of course, all other areas of new technology, critical technologies. Akansha.
Dr. Nagao, I want to quickly bring you in on the business aspect of this, because there's going to be a business forum which is going to be hosted by the Japanese External Trade Organization at 3 p.m. What can we expect from this business forum at a time when both India and Japan have borne the brunt of Trumpian tariffs?
Indeed, the trade area is indeed frontier area. So both countries can expand drastically. Currently, 1 or 2% of the total trade of both countries, so very small. But this means that huge potential exists. And this is the age of the economic security, and Prime Minister Takaichi is expert of the economic security. She published many books about economic security in Japanese. So that's why economic security, energy security with big business, this will be a very important issue in the two countries. So now Prime Minister Takaichi is successor of the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, good friend of the Prime Minister Modi she will be. So that's why this is a new age of the two countries. Asian reach, Asian power is led by this.
Even more so after Tokyo has in fact vowed to extend investment to India worth 10 trillion yen. We'll have to see how that actually shapes up for New Delhi and Tokyo. Many thanks to you three gentlemen for joining in on our live and rolling coverage of the 16th India-Japan Annual Summit. That's all we have for you in this edition. Stay tuned throughout the day, but now it's time for a quick break.